This is Max Knight and Sadie. We're here to talk about our own pain management plans that we've created with one of our own patients. Goodness gracious, do I talk much? And so we'll start with Sadie.
Awesome. So let me share my screen here. Okay, so my pain management plan is for a 58-year-old woman with shoulder pain. So kind of looking at a few different things, I decided to use a variety of testing measures to really see where her pain level is at and kind of get a good read on really how to move forward with addressing the pain. So I, just as a general sense, I usually use the numeric rating scale. I just think it's an easy measure for the patient to understand, and it's a good objective measure for us too. I think that one's pretty common, but I asked for an at rest, so when she's doing nothing, and then also with activity, what her score is in the last week. That's kind of where we started with. And then when we do follow-ups, it's more like, how did you feel today? So that's kind of where she's at now. So pretty mild in terms of pain, but it is something that limits her in her everyday life. I also use the brief pain inventory. So let me open that up here. If I can find it. Okay, so this one, oops, quick look. Okay, so this was the brief pain inventory. So she did this remotely. So pain is primarily in the right shoulder, front and back side. She has pain really localized to the shoulder, nothing numbness and tingling down the arm. So I liked this scale compared to some of the other ones because I thought it gave a good reference to the issue at hand, and it kind of goes into the medications that they're using and if anything in the last 24 hours had relieved the pain. So I like the variety that it gave in that regard. And I don't know which one you used, Max, but so yeah, this is kind of where she was at with the brief pain inventory. I also really like that this one talks about mood, just general like normal activities like around the house, because for her that was one of the things that was most bothersome, and I wouldn't have gathered that information by just saying what's your pain level. Like her pain level at rest is a 2, but then looking at her stuff around the house, from I know vacuuming was a big thing for her. She's more at the 6 here, so she's really having some issue with that. And same with sleeping. Sleeping was way up here at an 8. So I like this scale because it gave a good read of a more full picture of what was happening. And then with her, we also did the mental health component of it. And I think this is really important for any patient. With her specifically, I wasn't so worried about it. She's got a very level head, just in general, a very positive outlook on things. So there really wasn't much of concern here, except the sleeping again was indicated that was a bother for her. And then a little bit of issue in regards of eating. And that actually was very important for me to know, because when we talked about her care plan, she was concerned about medication use, and she uses Aleve or Tylenol just for general pain relief, but wasn't very knowledgeable on how to actually get an anti-inflammatory, a decrease of anti-inflammatory in that period of time that's necessary. Like, I feel like most patients are like that, where they're like, yeah, I just pop an ibuprofen whenever. And in reality, it needs to be for that, 7 to 10 day window regularly in order to really get those effects. So we talked about that. In general, it really wants the pain level to a 0 or 1 in order to get back to the things that are important. Then, so we kind of went down and talked about different traditional methods that she'd be open to trying. a lot of them, again, she tends to lean towards the more natural natural way of healing. So I wasn't worried about the opioids or anything. So I did not include any of that in my assessment. I didn't think it was appropriate for this patient specifically. And then also for pain assessment, we did do the DASH. So that was more of a functional measure. I just think for shoulders, that's a great one to do. The last one's for functional goals. I always use the patient specific functional scale. That's one I use for almost all my patients because it's easy to, you basically make up something that they're struggling with and they score it. Like, am I able to do it or not? So I think that one's super applicable to almost anybody. And you can change them kind of as they go. So I really like that one. So that's what we did. And the two biggest concerns were dressing without pain and then sleeping through the night. So then as far as strategies go, super open to kind of those natural things, especially the home program stuff. So we went over a lot of different things we could do to improve shoulder mobility and stretching, just range of motion and stuff like that. And I'd worked with her in the past too, and she saw a lot of benefit from the foam rolling. So we just continued to kind of work on some of those things. Neuromuscular reeducation was huge here. And I think that plays largely into pain because you can't just address the pain. You have to look at the full picture in that regard. And I think that home program piece, and if they're actually learning how to help heal themselves, that's when you really see the best outcome in their pain. We did talk about a consultation with an ortho after 8 or so weeks if she's not seeing an improvement. That's an option. Medication, we talked about the appropriate use of Aleve. We decided to go with the naproxen sodium just because of the longer half-life. And we kind of talked about that, the difference between that and ibuprofen and the difference between that and then acetaminophen. And she was very open to that. So she chose to go with the naproxen the morning and night for 7 to 10 days to see if we can relieve that resting and moving discomfort a little bit, or at least get that anti-inflammatory process started and then kind of go from there. We talked about sleep and how to reposition yourself at night so that you can be comfortable sleeping, because if you're not getting good sleep, your pain, your irritability, your fatigue, all of that is just, it's all connected. So we talked a lot about sleep. We definitely talked about the self-care component. She's fairly active for her age, at least 4 times a week, either weight training or classes at the Y. And we talked about the importance of modifying things. So when you are feeling pain, of actually taking a step back and doing something a little bit different. So you can still stay active. It's just about making sure that that's not an aggravating activity for you. Mm-hmm. And she is a volunteer. So that was really important for her to be able to continue to do that. And I think that's wonderful when it comes to just self-care in general. A lot of people find fulfillment in volunteering in that way. So I thought that was something we needed to continue to make sure she was able to do. And then the Epsom salt bath was something that she was doing currently to help alleviate some of that discomfort. And I think it was probably just that nice relief more than actually on the shoulder. Mm-hmm. I think it was probably just more relaxing in that way. And then the last thing we talked about is an anti-inflammatory diet, and having that kind of that 80-20 rule, where if you're following, a good diet of good dense nutrients 80% of the time, and then the other 20 is maybe a little bit more lenient. I think that's a good, reasonable and sustainable way to kind of introduce some of that. So we definitely talked about that. And kind of with that, the tart cherry juice. I'm not sure if you're super familiar with tart cherry juice.
No.
But so we kind of educated on the benefits of tart cherry juice, and her concern of kind of that diet component. We decided to just do that once a day, rather than, I know some recommendations are 2 to 3 times a day, 4 to 6 ounces, 2 to 3 times a day to decrease inflammation. But we opted to just go for once a day, either before exercise or right away in the morning, because your body can actually metabolize the sugars a little bit better in that time frame. So we definitely talked quite a bit about diet. And then just the anti-inflammatory diet in general. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that either, but it's kind of taking away from the simple and refined sugars. and getting a little bit more into that high fiber. It's just high vegetables, a little higher fat, good fat. So like coconut oil, avocado, olive oil, nuts, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And then a lot of beans and vegetables. And yeah, so we gave her kind of information on that and content there, and very open to that, really excited to start kind of doing that a little bit more, because weight was a concern as well. So
Okay.
again, kind of like all encompassing, how can we bring this all together? And of course, if your diet is strong and you're having pain, you feel like you want to have a little bit more, you want to feel a little bit better with your body in that way, then I felt like this was a good complement to hit both of those areas. And then we also talked about heat and ice and when and how to use those. Although she hadn't done that in the past, so that was something that she was open to, but didn't really know if it would help a ton.
Right.
So I think mostly she was excited about the anti-inflammatory component, and integrating the tart cherry juice, especially after she was done with the 10-day regimen of naproxen. And then we also talked about integrative approaches. So the ones that were that she was curious about were the CBD. So we gave just some content on marijuana and how that could potentially be implemented, especially in Michigan. It's legalized now, so a lot more people are interested in it. And you see that a lot more in the public eye. So I gave her that article from that we read this week that I thought was really interesting, and just a little bit more content on the cannabidiol system and how that all works in pain reduction. So that was a big intrigue for her. And then Tai Chi, which she actually already practices once a week at the Y. So that is kind of one of the classes she does already, which I thought was really cool, because I think that breathing, that deep breathing and movement is awesome for especially somebody near their 60s to kind of get into that practice a little bit more. So yeah, that's kind of the plan that we went over this week with her.
Wow, that's pretty impressive there, Sadie. Yeah, that was really thorough. I especially so I kind of want to talk about the CBD just for a little bit, because I'm hearing more and more about it. And I listen to, as you know, I'm a big hockey guy. And so I listen to a couple hockey podcasts, and there's one in particular that, the hosts are retired NHL players. So they talk about it a lot, and they actually had the strength and conditioning coach for the Pittsburgh Penguins on, and they were talking about it. He was kind of talking about the research and everything with it. So here in Indiana, I've seen a few CBD shops pop up, and even video stores and all that, say that they have CBD. But I don't know how it is in Grand Rapids. I don't know if they're on every corner now, or but it's becoming almost like a fad almost, but but there's I feel like there's more and more research being done on it and actually coming out on it, where it may have the benefits there, which is awesome, because I'm wanting to learn more about it too. But there's always that kind of old school mentality, what I like to call it, of people hear CBD and they're like, oh, well, you're just you're trying to get high, or
right.
It's I feel like we need one giant public service announcement about CBD.
Yeah. I think if you're looking for more information, a good place to start is researching the endogenous cannabidioid system. So it's the ECS, which is in our bodies. We have cannabidioid receptors just as it is. And that's where, so in a hemp plant, there's THC, which is the psychotropic component. That's the part that gives you the mental high.
Yeah.
And then there's the non-psychotropic component, which is cannabidiol or CBD. And it is a direct, it is absorbed in our system through our endogenous cannabidiol system. So that if you look up ECS, it's a system in our bodies that I don't think is very well researched at this point in time, but there's more research coming out to kind of show that when our receptors are actually filled in the right ways, we're seeing a lot of really positive benefits,
Right.
in mental health, in physical health. So it really is very interesting. I don't know a ton about it, but I know enough to start to guide people of where to look, because there's a lot of research that needs to be done, period. So I am definitely not, I do not know everything. But I do know that CBD is that's the piece that they give to kids, for example, with epilepsy. They started seeing that in epileptics or PTSD. Like they're seeing it in extreme cases where these people started using it and they started seeing benefits. They're like, oh, well, maybe we should look into this a little bit more.
Right.
Which I think they should. But I know CBD itself is legal. The issue comes in when the THC component is involved as well, because that is federally illegal
right
now. So that's where I think there's still that, like, we're walking on eggshells around the term of CBD or THC, because I just think we don't know enough yet. And it was such a high classification of a drug schedule after the 60s that we kind of were like, oh no, weed,
Yeah, exactly. And like I already see it kind of going down this route now with like like we see with supplements, the pre-workouts, like that kind of stuff, where everybody's kind of making their own thing. And it's not and I mean I need to do more research on this, but I don't know if there's like an actual, if someone's keeping track of like what people are putting into their balms, their mists, their whatever. So I'd hate for it to kind of get like kind of mucked up and be everybody's kind of creating their own brand. And
it was actually, I was really disappointed because this was a few months ago. I heard that Coke and Pepsi were in a battle of who's going to be the first one to start implementing CBD into their products. And I was like, really? Like of how we could start actually using CBD, we're going to start putting it in Coke and Pepsi. I was like, are you joking me? What are we doing?
If there's a dollar to be made, there's a dollar.
I know it's kind of crazy, but I encourage you to do your research on it, because it's an option. And I think especially as we transition, we're seeing some of the negative effects of pharmaceuticals, and we're transitioning a little bit more into those integrative approaches. I do think it's something we need to be aware of and at least know a base knowledge to say, I know this much and here's some resources, but you're going to have to maybe do some more research or guide somebody, further on down the road in that way. But it is pretty interesting.
And even like kind of, I mean, I think this would be more on us since we're healthcare professionals, but finding another healthcare professional, a doctor, somebody, in the local area who may be doing more research on it or may, have more knowledge on it. So you can kind of refer them on. So, but anyways, good talk about CBD.
Yeah, that was good.
Okay. So I'm going to share my screen real quick.
Okay.
And then we'll move on. All right. Here we go. So for my pain management plan, I have a 17-year-old male high school high jumper. I've developed a really good relationship with him since, early December, kind of before Christmas, kind of when he was starting to condition for track season. He's one of those patients who he'll come up to you and tell you like, hey, like we're going to be hanging out a lot this season. And you're like, okay, yeah, sure. And then
sure enough,
they're just prone to injury, I guess. So Really nice kid. So with him, he usually likes to come in about like 15 minutes after school, kind of where I'm in like the heat of things,
Mm-hmm.
getting everybody in and out. So I was able to do the pain inventory, the brief pain inventory, which I can pull that up real quick. And I actually kind of like this. This was kind of cool.
I
It
did too.
was a little nostalgic for me. As an undergrad, we had at this one clinical site I worked at, they had like a form similar to this,
Mm.
that they kind of meshed into their own evaluation form. So it was pretty cool. Um,
I had never really used anything like this, so I was very intrigued by it
yeah,
after
yeah.
the readings from this week. I was like, oh, I like this one.
Mhm. And I'll kind of get down to it here because when you were talking about the last page, I wanted to comment, but I wanted to leave it to the very end so we kind of like
Mm.
discuss everything. But here he kind of just, just kind of everyday kind of pains really. Can you see my cursor?
Mm.
Okay. So he got a right adductor strain, grade 1, a few days ago. So yeah, just right on the inside of the leg there. Let's see. The worst it's been 24 hours has been about a 5. Um, the least has been about a 3, just when he ices. Um, let's see. If he ices too. I mean, he's not very most reliable person, but or consistent, but it's okay. It's okay. And then his average pain is, he says, around 5, and then 5 right now. So, which also I like this because he also likes to describe his pain as like, uh, he'll come up and be like, "Hey man, like big ouchie right now." And I'm like, "Okay, what does that mean?"
What does
So
that mean?
yeah,
I really like this one because it says on average, so
yeah,
just in general, and then it says how about right now.
yeah,
So I like that differentiation. Just like at rest or with activity, I think it's important not to just go, "What's your pain level?" Because in what, like, what does that even mean?
exactly. Yeah, it's yeah, we're able to kind of take that one statement and kind of
I do wish that this pain inventory had something about the quality of pain or what the pain feels like. Like, is it pins and needles, sharp shooting, dull achy? Because it didn't have anything like that, whereas some of the other ones did. I forget which one it was, but it was like 2 pages of you checking the boxes on what
okay.
described your pain. Did you see that one?
I don't think I
Does
got to
that
that
sound
one.
familiar?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but I didn't.
Yeah. I don't remember what the name of it was, but I was impressed with how many different verbs there were to
Mhm.
describe that pain, but it was almost too long. That's why I didn't choose that
Yeah,
one. But I wish that this one had something like that. So that could be something to think about just to add, you
yeah,
know,
and that'd
how would you
be
describe it, you know?
yeah, and that'd be a good thing to kind of like have some takeaway points with it too, like because
Hmm.
I often find when I'm trying to figure out a high schooler uh, or junior high kids pain, and I'm kind of like, is it pins and needles, or like they're like what?
Yeah.
So it'd be
And
nice
I
to
don't
have
know.
more things in your arsenal. So
Hmm.
so treatments we've been doing is just icing and just therapeutic exercises. Um, let's see, this is medication. So um, he hasn't been taking any medication for it. Like to him, it's not bothering him as much. So um, yeah, I guess he just put 10%. I don't know. Um,
Oh,
I wish there
he
was
hasn't
a
probably gotten any relief from medication if he's not taking any,
right.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Good point. Thanks, Sadie.
You're welcome.
Um, so as far as his pain interfering with his general activity of 4, just because whenever he moves, he feels it.
Mhm.
His mood is a 3. Walking ability 4. Normal work. Um, you know,
Sure.
just feels it whenever.
Mhm.
Relations with the people, doesn't interfere with him much. He's a pretty happy-go-lucky guy
Yeah. Cool.
already. Sleep, not really, just because he's horizontal. And then enjoyment of life,
Mhm.
yeah, that's not really bothering him too much
Yeah.
there. So
Yeah.
I didn't feel the need to pull up, a mental health questionnaire
Mhm.
just because of these low scores. But I mean,
Mhm.
it still would
Totally.
be, yeah, it still would be handy to
Mhm.
use, um,
I
especially.
think, like you said though, it's going to be dependent on the person. Like
Yeah.
if you're really not getting those cues, now you could look at that mood and he has score of 3 and you could go, okay, maybe I could touch a little bit more on how he's feeling about it. But
Hmm.
I agree, if you're not, I feel like it's all troubleshooting. You're not going to do a mental health questionnaire for every patient if you, I mean, maybe you are, I don't know, whatever your
Yeah.
protocol is, but
Yeah. Well, it's like, with going off of this, like, I was like, yeah, no, yeah, I don't think we need one right now. But he's also an athlete where um, he gets very mental. Like if he misses a jump, or if that one thing in his technique
mhm,
was wrong, he'll be like, just it'll be a big thing.
mhm,
Um, so so yeah, but that, I mean, I also know the kid pretty well, just from being with him
yeah,
a lot. So yeah, did an opioid risk assessment. That was low. So again, didn't have to worry about anything there real quick. I wanted to do that because I learned a few months ago that Indiana, Ohio, and a few states around us are in like a very large opioid crisis. So
oh,
um, yeah, so that I wanted to get that going. A doctor was talking or presented about this, and he was saying that most opioid cases start in high school with high school
wow,
students. So I was like,
wow.
okay, that's
Mhm.
that's very scary.
I'm glad that
Yeah.
you noticed that and that you integrated that with this. That's
Mhm.
awesome.
And also, we did this for Dr. E's class, I believe, but there's like that demographics assignment, or maybe it wasn't for Dr. E's class. I don't remember. Um, but I learned a lot about the average income, the alcoholism,
Mhm.
uh, things like that, kind of with uh, the population that I'm working with, like, as far as their parents, neighbors, whatever. And it was pretty
Mhm.
shocking. So that was really important that I,
Yeah, that was Dr. E's class where we had to do,
yeah,
yeah, look into the surveys of the area that we're working with.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, yep, I remember
Not losing my mind.
that. They all
um,
meshed together at this point.
yeah. Functional goals with him. He just wants to high jump without his leg hurting. He wants to walk around and run without feeling tightness in his leg. He
Mhm.
complains of a lot of pulling and 3, obviously, for him to not worry about it anymore.
Mhm.
Pretty straightforward guy.
Yep.
So he wants his pain to be 0 out of 10. And yeah, totally expected there. Um,
Cool.
with traditional approaches, this is what we've been doing um, this week for him. Just isometric hip abduction, 3 sets of 8, 5-second hold, where he's laying on his side. Then he's laying on his back, squeezing a foam roller, 2 sets of 8 for a 30-second hold, 75% strength. Um, and then I have him standing while performing hip flexion to about 90 degrees or more. And then I take a band and I pull um, away from the midline where there's stress. Um, and then he has to keep his legs straight so it can't fall in. There we go. And then bounding, 10 sets of going up 20 yards. And then just a sumo stretch, goalie stretch, and just icing after practice. And then with self-care, again, just kind of getting them an icing regimen, um, you know, three times, once an hour, ibuprofen, Tylenol if needed, and then foam roll or hot tub if he wants to. So kind of just a relaxing thing there.
Mhm.
Um, going down to integrative approaches, I was kind of like, oh yeah, I don't know what we can do about this, but knowing that he's kind of like a mental athlete, I wanted him to do about 5 to 10 minutes of body scanning. So I kind of pitched it to him, kind of told him what it's all about, and he was like, oh, all right, okay, we'll try it out.
Yeah.
Uh, and so I gave him a few options for videos to go look at on YouTube, just kind of learn more about it. And so hopefully he does it this weekend, and we can kind of figure out what he thought of it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So yeah.
I think that teaching, especially, how old are you, 17?
Yeah.
I think teaching young adults that body awareness, like you literally scan your body. It's like a scanner, and you go down and figure out what what each thing is feeling. And if you if you're feeling discomfort, if you're feeling pain, notice it and try to figure out what it's telling you. You know, I think
Yeah.
that's so important. I was never taught that. Like, I was never taught that stuff.
Yeah. I
So
mean,
I think that's awesome that he's at least having some exposure to it, because as you get older, your body feels stresses in certain ways, and you need to know what those mean.
mhm.
You know, you need to know if my stomach is upset, or if I feel like my stomach is flipping. Maybe you're anxious about something. Maybe that is telling you this or whatever. So I think that's great that you integrated that piece of it. Good job
Exactly.
on that.
Thank you. I just
Mhm.
hope it's a successful, because I've tried, introducing body scanning to um, uh, a patient I've had kind of in the geriatric population. Um, and she was having some shoulder problems, and I wanted her to kind of um, find a way to relax. And I thought this maybe would have been a good way, because everything, she was just like, she would not let go. So she was like, so I wanted her to kind
Intense.
of use that as a relaxing type thing with like a heat blanket or heating pad or something, just to have a
Mhm.
warm, comforting type thing.
Mhm.
But yeah, so yeah, Monday we'll follow up with him, and then
Yeah.
we'll see how everything's going, and we'll
That's
adjust
great.
as
I
we
don't
go.
know how long ago his initial complaint was, but I was going to say, for the exercises, something I found to be really successful, let's say, okay, so it's his
Mhm.
groin strain. Okay. Something I found is to start to strengthen and increase that neuromuscular connection on the opposing muscle groups. Because you know this, often when something's hurting, depending on the level of hurt, they don't want to do anything with that. Like
Yeah, no.
you almost want to like avoid that. So especially with the hip complex, core stuff is awesome. Glute stuff is great. Those lateral movers is wonderful. Like, you had him doing that bounding and stuff. I don't know if was doing that with a band or not, but just something to think about if he's not responding well to resistive stuff for that specific
Mhm.
muscle group, just
Okay.
something to kind of like distract from the area that's a bother and focus on something that's a little bit different but very related.
Okay.
Could
Okay.
be
Yeah.
helpful.
I'll keep that in mind, because
Yeah.
that's probably a way I should start kind of like thinking about with other kids, because yeah, they don't want to move what hurts.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah.
honestly, I think for the most part, when I see patients, when there's something that's wrong, I almost always address joints surrounding it, rather than, like, you have a knee, my knee hurts. It's probably not your knee. It's probably
Mhm.
your hips. It's probably your core. It's probably your ankles, your feet. It's something else, very likely, because the knee's in between stuff. Like,
Mhm.
it's kind of just susceptible for injury. So I
Yeah.
always found that was a good way of kind of addressing the issue without having it be too much of a bother.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, anything to add on on your side of the pain management thing, or
Mm,
no?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks, Sadie.
Thank you.